Is it possible to train your brain to make more money?
That's food for thought.
I know, it sounds crazy, but given the right inputs, our brains can do some pretty amazing things. Just take Ruben, a young British lad who took a hit to the head in a football game, and when he woke up, he could speak fluent Spanish.
A language he had never spoken fluently before.
I've been done over here. I got punched in the face by a stranger in a bar the other day, and all I got out of that was a fat lip and the sudden urge to cry about it online. Que cojones, no? A freak event or not, the brain can be trained to do some amazing things. And sometimes that can happen in the blink of an eye. And that got me thinking, what if we could hack our brains to make ourselves richer? Well, I got the academic papers in my hand that prove that you can. Studies on everything from how to take more risks, all the way down to a simple 30-second exercise that's been called the most powerful hack in neuroscience. I went into this unsure on what I would find, but now I'm confident that it's not only possible to prime our minds for prosperity, it's muy fácil.
Now, is there anyone here to tell me why?
I've got nothing left.
Everything he needs to learn these things is already there.
Brainwaves.
Medulla oblongata.
I know Kung Fu.
It's 2011, and an experiment is being conducted where participants are being shown videos of money being destroyed. The left side of the brain lights up. Similar to when we use tools like hammers or screwdrivers, that's our rational brain recognizing money as a tool. But they also noticed something else. Watching money burn made people feel uncomfortable, triggering the amygdala.
Oblongata.
This part of the brain here that deals with fear. There's also some stuff in here about people getting aroused, but I don't know what that is. Anyway, the paper concludes, we point to significant evidence that suggests money affects our brain in the same way as a drug. We just can't help ourselves. Despite our advancements as a species, our brains still lag behind the modern world. The prefrontal cortex, known as the executive brain, evolved over 500,000 years ago. Compare that to money, which is a relatively modern invention, and even younger still is our understanding of how it interacts with our minds. For decades, economists have had the last and often only word on money, and yet some of the biggest worldwide events of recent history stem from a failure to understand the psychology of money. That's a quote from Kathleen D. Voss,
My research that you'll hear about here in a moment.
world expert on a topic called money priming, which is the first hack that I'm going to look at with you today. She analysed the findings of over 200 studies into this topic of money priming. Honestly, some of the findings are wild, but KS money priming. Priming refers to this idea that exposure to thoughts or ideas can influence other behaviours. I'll give you a non-money related example to explain what I mean. They found that the act of describing old people walking slowly led to those people walking slower themselves. Money priming is priming in this way, but using images and references of cash. Counting money has been found to reduce pain, as money is associated with strength and security, so you feel stronger while counting it, so as a result you feel less pain. Or let's say you own a restaurant, I don't know, a Spanish place, first thing that came to our mind. Removing currency signs from the price list can lead to people spending on average 8% more than they would have if the price symbol was there, because seeing the price symbol makes people stingier and they don't buy the patatas bravas. It's that whole thing of using cash instead of a card and you spend more. 219 papers, all with examples like this, but I can summarise the key findings as follows. Those primed by money put more effort into achieving goals, perform better at tasks, and report feeling stronger, effective, and more successful. Now, before you start papering money to the walls, there are some drawbacks. People primed with cash also have a tendency to be more selfish, less of a team player, and prefer to have more physical space between them and those around them.
Do you want to be playing alone, or do you want to spend your playtime with other people?
I mean, it could be worse. You could get your kicks out of watching cash burn. But if you're a salesperson aiming to crush your competition, or you're seeking to focus on work or studying for a period of time, just stare at some cash. I mean, this is fake money, but you get my point. Later in the video, I'll show you how to combine this with a neurological hack that takes 30 seconds to produce some quick results. But if you want to start on your money priming journey today, I can think of no better way than with today's video sponsor, The Daily Upside. They're a completely free business newsletter sent to your email inbox daily, and they now have over 1 million people that get their email. I'm not surprised because it is excellent. Talking of money priming, their daily dose of well-researched, excellently crafted finance news is the perfect way to prime your mind for the day. I love how they bring stories to the table that are very relevant to me, but they always look at the financial aspect of it. An example is this one exploring Google's advertising and recent findings into it. The Daily Upside's completely free to read, no upsell at all, and all you need to register is to check out the link in the pinned comments or the description and just enter your email, that's it. I'm sure you'll love it, but if you don't, you can always unsubscribe if you like. Right, there's something else we need to talk about. Something so important, so impactful on a human level, that a failure to address it has toppled empires. It's 1494, and the Spanish just hit the jackpot. After touching down on the island of Hispaniola, the conquistadors got their first taste of what would become an obsession.
Gold and emeralds and silver.
Aztec gold.
Vast deposits.
There's something about gold.
Their voracious appetite for the yellow rocks saw the Spanish plunder their way across the Americas. A flood of these precious metals crossed the sea, making Spain a very rich country indeed. But hold on, fast forward just 300 years, the Industrial Revolution is starting in the UK, and Spain lags behind. How? You could blame corruption, post-colonialism, or this little small French dude if you like.
I'm just editing this, and I think it's also worth saying that they brought so many precious metals back that it could be argued that they devalued their own currency. Massive amounts of inflation. I mean, hardly sounds familiar, does it?
But there was something else happening as well.
Gotta.
At the point Spain won the lottery, they became a nation of spenders, with no incentives to take risks. Meanwhile, the British, who definitely stole a little bit of gold for themselves, just not as much, were incentivized to innovate and develop services that the Spanish wanted to buy. It's an irony of history that had Great Britain received a huge windfall of gold, the incentive for businesses to take risks and develop industry would not have been as strong. The Spanish won the lottery and then fell into that very shocking statistic of 70% of lottery winners who go broke. If you want to talk about making more money and reprogramming your brain, we need to talk about how we approach risk.
El que no arriesga, no gana.
He who doesn't risk doesn't gain anything. Appropriate risk-taking is crucial for advancement, and I'm not even talking about starting your own business. Job hoppers who embrace the unknown tend to receive higher pay rises, and public speaking is listed as a top fear due to the risk of embarrassment, but it's a skill that's credited with the most likely to lead to a promotion. Tim Ferriss did a TED Talk where he discusses a framework he uses to overcome fears.
That completely changed my life.
Which I believe we can also apply to the risks in our lives perfectly. It originates from Stoicism and is known as, oh god, here we go, premeditatio malorum. My Spanish is rubbish, but my Latin is clearly impeccable. That translates to
premeditation of evils.
Ferriss uses a 3-page system. He runs you through it in full in the video.
3 pages. Super simple.
But why I like Ferriss's approach is because he is bipolar. He often has quite extreme swings in his mood, and as a result finds it really hard to trust his own judgment. But at the same time, he's been hyper successful, and he credits this system for that.
It is actually the same tool that has helped me to make my best business decisions.
It gets this process of analysing risks in his life out of his own head and runs it through a methodical system. We all tend to overestimate the risks involved in anything we do. As Seneca the Younger once said, we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Okay, next section. I want you to think about something for a second. The same system in the brain that drove Alexander the Great at the age of 20 to conquer Greece is the one you use when you go to the supermarket. So why is it that Alexander was great and I struggle to find where the hummus is? We all have the same stuff between our ears. Some of us are just better at deploying it than others. The good news is, though, that the brain can reorganize itself. It's called neuroplasticity. An extreme example of what I mean is called hemisphectorectomy. Chopping the brain in half. They take out or disconnect half of the person's brain, and the remaining healthy part of the brain then rewires itself to compensate for all of the lost function. Now, as you get older, your brain becomes less neuroplastic. Maybe why older people are described as being stuck in their ways.
Are you excited for your party?
Not one bit.
But don't give up on your goal of concrete Corfu just yet. This paper shows that neuroplasticity is something we can all use to achieve our goals. When we establish a goal, we biologically program our brains to change and create new behaviours that enable us to achieve that goal. The more specific that goal, the stronger the connections between neurons, and the more likely we are to achieve that goal. Setting a broad goal like being rich poses a problem for our brains. There's just too many variables in that statement. There is an unclear path on how to achieve it. And what that means is the brain doesn't know where to focus, and you just start daydreaming about luxury cars and boats. Really bad idea, but we'll get into that in a second. But not having a clear plan means that the brain doesn't know where to focus and then uses emotion to try and decide what actions to focus on. And then you end up buying lottery tickets to try and get rich. To get around this, the brain needs to have a specific definition of wealth that's tailored to you. I want to have £2 million in a stocks and shares ISA invested in a global index fund by the age of 55, which would generate me about 60 to 80k a year in sustainable income. That's a specific goal that provides clarity, a timeline, and a means of achieving it. I can then break that down further by using a compound interest calculator. I stop thinking about Ferraris and all I think about is how do I get the £1,666 a month into my ISA that I need. One thing I can't stop thinking about though is people getting turned on by watching money burning. I mean, seriously, what is going on there? Now, a well-defined goal is just one part of this. Next, I want to talk about how you can motivate your brain to actually achieve that goal. Pinterest influencers will tell you to make a vision board to help manifest those goals. The science, unfortunately, says that's a load of crap. Positive visualization is good when deciding your goals, but bad at motivating you because it makes you feel good. And if you already feel great now, why bother chasing after your goal? This type of motivation also fails to identify obstacles, which reduces your drive to push yourself and demotivates you when you inevitably hit a challenge. Okay, load of crap was a bit strong. Use positive visualization to set a goal and then consider identifying instead the worst case scenario as motivation going forwards. Make a misery board instead and pin that on your wall. I mean, don't send yourself under. But I often motivate myself to produce content with what I consider the worst case scenario. I actually have it on my wall here. 1 sec. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? It's a famous quote. I think Halil the Great said it. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I first heard it on Rhett and Link's Good Mythical Morning because I'm cultured like that. Most take it to mean, hey, you are good enough, you know, if not you, then who? But I also take it as, if I don't do this, someone is right behind me ready to take my place. Literally anyone else could take my spot at any time, so put your foot down, Damo. Okay, I promised you a 30-second hack that could help you achieve your financial goals, so here it is. In a study from 2014, participants were asked to run a race. Some were instructed to stare at the finish line for 30 seconds before they set off, while others just warmed up on the start line. Surprisingly, the group that stared at the goal line ran 23% faster and perceived 17% less effort than the others. Andrew D. Huberman describes what is going on as one of the most powerful productivity hacks in neuroscience. Okay, hear me out because this one sounds a little bit weird. So we don't have a physical finish line for our financial goals that we can see in the distance that we can stare at, but you can focus your vision on a single point like a wall for 30 to 60 seconds. Better yet, stare at an image of money to really prime yourself. Just lock in on it for a minute, and you can blink obviously, but nothing else. And that will make you perform better. This concept is called attention narrowing. So why does this work? Huberman believes that focusing on a point changes how we perceive space and reframes our thoughts as a result of this. Normally, if you're in a relaxed setting, what happens is we exist in something called a peripersonal space. You're relaxed, your gaze is soft and wondering as a result, and you just feel chilled out. But when we have a goal, let's say suddenly you think, oh, I'd like a cup of coffee. What happens is our brain focuses on getting that cup of coffee, and as a result, our vision, our eyes literally narrow their focus in response. Like your eyes close in to help you focus on the goal you want to achieve. By deliberately focusing on a spot on the wall, we reverse engineer this process. The eyes focus first, and that signals to our brain, okay, it's time to pursue some goals. You're going to look real weird in the office staring at a 10-quid note for 30 seconds every morning. I know some of this research is a little bit out there, and I maintain a healthy level of skepticism about some of these findings. At the end of the day, I'm no neuroscientist.
What?
So in order to mitigate against that, I've tried to focus on academics and research that has been heavily cited according to the database that's compiled by ISI. I find that that's a good measure of credibility typically, as neuroscience has been criticised in the past as unreliable due to small sample sizes. Another safeguard I've put in place to protect against bad research. We've only discussed non-invasive techniques. I've avoided anything around supplementation or nootropics because the ramifications if that research is wrong is a lot more significant than you just looking like a muppet staring at a wall for 30 seconds. The brain is still a mystery, and our understanding of it is changing quickly. However, I don't think that means we should ignore the current attempts to understand the workings of the brain. Kanye West once said, how do you say broke in Spanish?
Me no hablo.
That translates to, I don't speak. His way of basically saying if you've got no money, then you don't have a voice because you're poor. I couldn't agree less with him after conducting all of this research. I think what it's told me, if anything, is that no matter your personal circumstances, we all have a voice inside of our heads that discusses money with us. And really, it's about us dictating what it says. Now that you know some ways to hopefully smash some financial goals in your life, and other goals for that matter, I guess the next question is, when you're absolutely stinking rich, are you even going to be happy anyway? The answer to that question is yes, but only if you watch this video next, where I discuss with you exactly how to buy happiness. Adios.